Hello, Durka Gaming here, and welcome to another FSX video. Today I'm going to show you how I tweak FSX. I'm going to show you how I tweak it within FSX, Nvidia Inspector, and how I tweak my config file. So I'll show you all those three elements of tweaking. I'm not going to take all the credit for this. I do follow Kosta's tweaking guide. I have changed one or two things. So again, I follow Kosta's. You'll see the link below to his blog. There's a lot of information in there. I recommend you click on that so you can see more in-depth information about each tweak. I'm going to go through a lot of them. I'm not going to go through too much detail. And the reason why I'm doing this tweaking video is I know there's a lot of other tweaking videos out there, but the guys who watch my channel when I stream on Twitch, twitchtv.com, they're always saying, "Oh, Durka, please show us your tweaks within FSX, or can you show us your Nvidia Inspector, or can you show us your config file?" So hence why I'm doing a video so I can show you all three. And again, these tweaks are done according to my PC specification. I'm running quite a high PC spec, so I don't want you guys trying these and you come back to me and say, "Oh, Durka, I keep on getting a or I'm getting bad frame rate, or my machine's messed up, or my FSX has crashed and it never wants to start again." Guys, I don't want to be held responsible for that, so I'm just warning you now. Just try these fixes and see if they work for you. Again, go into Kosta's blog and you can read what each tweak does in greater detail. So just a word of warning there. These are tweaks according to my PC specs. So okay, good. All right, first thing we'll do is look at the settings within FSX, and we'll go through each tab. So the first is the graphics tab. First couple of things are quite straightforward. So there's my device. I'm running a GTX 780. My target frame rate is set to 30. I know some people have unlimited, but mine is set to 30. Screen res is 1920 by 1080 times 32. Again, I think most people have that now. Filtering is anisotropic. And over on the other side, we have global options. Global texture res is very high. Lens flare is ticked, and advanced animations are ticked as well. Information text, I have single line. So there you go. Those are my settings on graphics. Okay, aircraft. Default cockpit view is 3D virtual cockpit. Show cockpit tooltips is ticked as well. I like this feature. I know a lot of people have it off. I like it, especially when I'm learning new planes and I'm not familiar where the different dials are and switches and that type of thing. I can just put my mouse cursor over that switch or the dial and it tells me what it is. Yes, I know it sounds a bit sort of what's the word, that I'm new to FSX, but I like it. I think it's handy, so you can tick that if you want that. This is an interesting one here, high res 3D virtual cockpit. I have that ticked, but one or two people have told me that, especially flying PMDG aircraft, that if you untick that, you do get better frame rates within the cockpit, especially the PMDG 777. So again, guys, just have a play around with that. I leave it ticked most of the time. When I'm flying the 777, I pretty much leave it ticked as well. I get about 18 to 21 frames in the cockpit with the 777. A side view, I get a locked 30 frames per second. So if you guys are struggling with frames, just untick that when you're flying any of the PMDG stuff or any other stuff you're struggling with. So 2D panel transparency, that's set to 0. Exterior settings, aircraft cast shadows on the ground, that is ticked, and aircraft landing lights illuminate the ground, that is ticked as well. I don't have aircraft cast shadows on itself. Okay, so again, those are my settings for aircraft, and as I said, just play around with this 3D virtual cockpit. Next one is scenery. So I tweak this pretty much according to Orbex settings, because I'm running a lot of Orbex scenery and airports. I pretty much run their settings as well. So we'll go through each one. So level of detail radius is large, mesh is 100, the mesh res is 5 mil, and Orbex recommend between 5 and 10, depending on which Orbex scenery you're running. I know, for example, I think England, EU England, and I think EU Wales as well, they recommend putting that up to or down to 10. So again, you need to just play around with that. But if you're not running any Orbex stuff, then I recommend just putting it up to 5 to 5M there. Alrighty. Texture res is 7. Again, this is according to Orbex and depending on which scenery you're using as well. Water effects high times 2 times. That's my settings, and I will show you something in the config, the buffer pools tweak, and I'll come back to the water effects and I'll explain a bit more about that. Scenery complexity is extremely dense. Autogen density is normal. Again, it depends where I'm flying and what I'm flying. I normally leave it between normal and dense when I'm flying around the UK because of all the scenery and all the autogen there. But if I'm flying like somewhere in New Zealand or Australia where there's not too much autogen, where there's not a lot of airports loading up and that type of thing, then I crank it up. I crank it up to very dense or leave it as dense as well. So again, it's something what you can play with yourself, but normally I leave that to normal. I think you're going to get the best FPS there as well. Special effects, I set that to high. And that's it. So those are my settings for scenery. Alrighty. So weather. Cloud draw distance, I leave that as 60. You can change the cloud draw within Active Sky as well. I run Active Sky next. So in fact, when I do change that, I do change that to 90 miles. When I change it in Active Sky, or when I activate Active Sky, that actually always defaults back down to 60. So I think I've actually got it set to 60 in Active Sky. Cloud details, I have detailed cloud. Cloud coverage destiny is maximum. Density, I should even is maximum. Simulation settings, untick download Windsor-Loft. You don't want that, because if you're running something like Opus or Rex or Active Sky, then you want that unticked, and then you want to disable the turbulence as well. So, and then rate at which weather changes over time, no change. Put that right. Put the slider right down as well. So those are the weather settings. Traffic. The only thing, I have everything set off. Sometimes I put these up. Sometimes I do, depending, but normally I have them off. I fly mainly on VATSIM, so obviously you don't want too much traffic if you're flying on VATSIM in a busy airport, something like Heathrow or Gatwick. You're just going to get a lot of aircraft and you are going to get bad frames. So I switch everything off. Leisure boats, ships, ferries, road vehicles, I switch those all off. Aircraft labels, I know some people have these all switched off. I like having these on. Actually, I'm not too fussed about tail number. I can take those off. I like seeing who's who's flying. So if I'm flying, if I'm doing a group VFR, if I'm flying with other people, I like to see who's flying with me so I can see their names. Um, Again, it just depends what you want to see. So I have pretty much everything except tail number. I did have that tick, but yeah, I'm just going to switch that off. The altitude and the distance, and you can just change the color to what you want. And that's it. Those are my settings within FSX. Fairly straightforward, not too difficult. Let's OK that. Okay, and we'll leave FSX for a bit and we will come over to Nvidia Inspector. So Nvidia Inspector. So all you need to do is just click on this the little tools here. Find your profile, the MS Flight Sim X, and let's go through the different settings. Okay, anti-aliasing behavior flags, set that to none. When you download the new drivers, every time you download the new drivers, this gets put to its default, which I think is treat override any application settings. It's one of these ones for some reason. So just remember that when you come back to your Nvidia Inspector, just make sure that none is selected, because when you download those drivers, it will set it to one of these. So just a word of warning there. Mode is overrides any application setting. Anti-aliasing setting is 8 times S combined, 1 times 2 SS plus 4X. Transparency, super sampling, 2 times sparse grid. Sometimes I move that to 4, depending on where I'm flying, but most of the time I leave that on 2 times. Texture filtering, let's move down there. Filtering setting, anisotropic filtering setting is off, linear. Texture filtering, negative load is clamp. Quality is high quality. Trilinear optimization is off. Let's move to common. Maximum pre-rendering frames is 1. Power management mode is prefer maximum performance. And a vertical sync. Okay, this is an interesting one. So if you are running a 60 Hertz monitor, you need to have it to half refresh rate. I'm running a 120 Hertz monitor, that's why I've got it to quarter rate. And that obviously is because I've set it in FSX to 30 frames per second. So I basically want half of what my monitor is. Yes, I know it. I'm running a 20 Hertz, 120 Hertz monitor, so it should be 60. But I know that I'm not going to get 60 frames per second at on my FSX. So even though I've set it to 30 within FSX, within vertical sync here, I've put it to quarter refresh rate, whatever my monitor is. So you guys who are running half or running 60 Hertz monitors should put it to half rate. So just remember that. Okay. And then once you've done all that, just click apply, and then that should be done. That's my Nvidia Inspector. Good, good. And now we will look at the config files. So next is my config file. I'll show you the main tweaks I've done. You know what, I have done a number of small little tweaks. I can't remember all of them, but I will just go through some of the bigger ones. So the first one is the buffer pool ones. That's the one I explained earlier. If you got your FSX water to 2 times high 2 times, then you need to have the buffer pools pull size to 0. So that's an important one. The other one, just scrolling through here, is under display, is the wide view aspect. I think that's quite a common one. That needs to be true because most of us are running widescreen monitors. So you want to say that to true. Upper frame rate limiter, I've set that to 30 because I've set my, I've locked my frames within the fsx settings to 30, as I showed you earlier. So that's another one, is the upper frame rate limiter. What else? Job scheduler, okay, affinity mask equals 84. The reason why I've got 84 is because I still have hyper-threading on. If you've switched hyper-threading off, it should be 14. Again, Kosta explains it really well in his blog, linked below. Have a look there. Fiber frame time fraction, again, this one you can have pretty much from 1 up to 33, I think it is. I've set it at 22. The lower you go, the better it is, but then you start getting, you start getting some stuttering and some blurriness. But I think Kosta recommends 25. I've stuck mine on 22, and that one works for me. So so that's good. Let's have a look. Oh, I did miss one here. Texture max load. So basically, this one is if you're running, for example, you're running Rex 4 textures and you're running 2048 textures, then you should be running 240 textures within your config as well. The only reason why you see 1024 is because when you go into your FSX settings, it defaults your whole config file. So that's why you're only seeing 1024. But I normally run 2048. If you are running the very high textures, the 4096 textures, then I would say add that into your config. It's going to make your FSX, the memory, and it's going to take up a lot of VAS, so just be careful with that. I would leave it in either 1024 or 2048 for max load, texture max load. So and let's go down to load radius. So load radius, this is a good one. This is a big problem with OOMs, and I know people put this even up to 8. I've known people to put this up to 8. Basically, what the load radius does, it makes your textures in the distance a lot sharper. So it's trying to load up all those sharp images if you set it to 6.5. And again, it's just going to take up so much VAS. And it's going to really hammer your performance of your FSX. So, and the other thing it does actually is it makes your textures on your planes very sharp as well. So if you really are running high textures on your planes, like if you're running the MacFat HD textures and you're running a 6.5, again, you're going to get a lot of memory load. Your VAS is going to creep up a lot, so just be careful with that. I leave mine at 5.5. Again, the reason why I'm showing 4.5 is because we were messing around within FSX. So I normally change this to 5.5, depending on where I fly as well. Sometimes I move it up to 6.5. But most of the time it's 5.5. Sometimes I leave it at 4.5 if we're flying around the UK, flying into Heathrow or Dublin, the new Dublin the Aerosoft Dublin X. I put it down to 4.5. So just be careful with that. You will get a if you set that to 6.5, and plus you have your auto gen up to very dense or something like that. As I said, this fix or this tweak, it basically makes your textures a lot sharper, and it also loads up the textures from a distance. So all those, so when you're flying and you're looking out the window and you see sort of, you know, something on the horizon, it's trying to load up those textures in a very sort of high level. So just be careful with that. So, and that's it really, guys. I will put a copy of my config file below, or you can click on it below. Feel free to copy it. What I would recommend is don't take my config file and put it straight into your one. Rather just open up the two. So open your one, open my one, and then make the changes like that. As I said before, I don't want you having problems with OOMs, with your FSX crashing and things like that. I don't want to take the blame for that. So just be careful with these config settings. These are set to how my PC is running, my PC specification, and that's how I've done it. So I'm just quickly trying to think if there's any other ones, and I'm sure someone in the comments going to say, yeah, you've missed this one, or you and I'm sure I have made some other little tweaks in that. If I remember, I just can't think of them offhand. As I said, this video is just the main ones, what I wanted to show you, like the LOD radius, and oh yes, God, I can't believe I've forgotten it. The other one is the high men fix. That is another really important one. Wow, I can't believe I nearly forgot that one. So another very important tweak is add in the high men fix equals 1. Basically, that will improve your texture loading of obviously your textures, and it will also make your video memory stable as well, especially in like high level of video memory. So that that one is a very important tweak as well, is the high men fix. Wow, I can't believe I nearly forgot that one. So if there's one tweak you want to do, that's the one, is the high men fix. Alrighty, and that's it, guys. That's pretty much it. I've shown you my FSX settings, I've shown you my Nvidia Inspector settings, and I've showed you my my FSX config settings. I'm going to show you 2 more things I use. I will stop the video there and you will see me in half a minute or so. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in a bit. Bye bye. Welcome back. So I mentioned there are 2 other bits of software I use for FSX, and the first one is Scenery Config Editor. It's a free download. The link is below. So yes, it's freeware. There's no charge for this. And I know a lot of you guys will be saying, oh, but you can do this within your FSX library. I know you can. I like this bit of software. It works for me. I think it's laid out a lot better, and yeah, I like it. It works for me. So so what you do is, what I do is, depending on where I'm going to fly, so I'll just use these ones which are ticked already. So I've got Stansted and Dublin. So we're doing a flight from Stansted and Dublin. So I only have those ticked. Everything else you don't need ticked, because what happens is, just say we're flying from Stansted, as I said, to Dublin, and we pass over, what airport is near Stansted? We won't go down as far as Cardiff. For example, Manchester. Let's just take Manchester. If we've got Manchester ticked, when you fly over Manchester, what's going to happen is, Manchester Airport, all those files, all those textures are going to load into your FSX. So that means your frame rate is going to drop and your memory is going to increase. So that means your VAS is going to increase. And if you have all these airports loading while you're doing a flight, it's just taken up more of your VAS. And remember, you only have 4 gig of VAS. And you guys have seen on some of my streams, when the VAS is gone, it's a and there's no coming back to that. So if you're not flying into the airport or you're flying over the certain airports, untick them. You don't need those airports loading up. Okay, same with the scenery, depending on where you're flying. I have England ticked, Ireland ticked because we're doing a Stansted to Dublin. If you're flying in New Zealand, come and tick your New Zealand, Wales, and all the other Orbex scenery where you're flying to. Obviously, if you are not flying into an Orbex region, you don't need any of these ticked, and all you do, you just need Orbex Global. As you can see, their base is ticked. So, for example, if we are flying, and I'll use South Africa for an example. If I'm flying in South Africa, all I will do is have the base ticked, because I know that's all what I need loading. I don't need, obviously, even though we're not flying near them, I don't need these loading up when I start my FSX. So all it is, I feel it's just an easier tool to come in here and untick the stuff you don't need where you're not flying. That's basically it. And all your scenery will be in here. So if you're running all your airports, if you are running Orbex scenery, if you are running the new open class Europe, you know, the open land class, you can see all the files here. If you're using vector, so guys, yes, I know you can do the same thing in within FSX, but I like this tool. It's free, it's easy, and I'll just quickly show you how to set it up. So you go to preferences, so list preferences. You just need to map to the root of your FSX. Location of scenery, so you just need to make sure it's FSX mode, and where your scenery config file is, so that's where mine is. And you need these 3 tick boxes ticked as well. Follow the new scenery convention, check scenery directories exist, and use last accepted path as default. So those are the 3 there. And then that's it. If you want to add scenery, I know sometimes if you want to add scenery, it doesn't always come out. What you can do as well, you can say add area, and you can put a title. So you can put Johannesburg X, for example, and then you can basically browse to the scenery, and then all you do is click OK, and then it will put a path there to that scenery. There you go. Pretty straightforward, very easy. I like it. Scenery config editor, the link is below, grab it. So the other one I want to show you is Process Explorer. It's free as well, the link is below, so grab it. It is a very handy tool. What it basically does, it keeps an eye on your virtual memory. That's it. That's all it does. So when you load up FSX, then you start loading up scenery, you get into your PMDG 777, you will see this virtual size creeping up. Obviously we don't have FSX loaded, so you can't see it. And the way to get the virtual size is basically you go to View, select Column, you go to Process Memory, and there's the little tick there, virtual size there, and that's it. You can minimize it and you can have it running in your taskbar. Very straightforward, guys, a very handy tool. Grab it, as I said, it's free, and the link is below. And that's it, guys. Thank you very much. That's my tweaking guide. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I follow Kosta's guide. These are most of his tweaks. I've made a few changes, or not a few, but a lot of changes, but majority of them are Kosta's guide, and they work for me and they work well. So go over to his blog. You can read a lot more in-depth detail about his tweaks. And yes, and there you go. That's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you like the video, give a little thumbs up. Please leave comments. If you don't, anything you don't like, it will, yeah, just leave that in the comment. It will only improve my videos for next time. And that's it. Happy tweaking. Hopefully you are successful with it. If you need anything else, as I said, leave a comment and I will try answer as best as I can. Take care. Remember to subscribe and I will catch you guys soon. Cheers, cheers. Bye-bye.